Now, let's talk about funding options, because this is something that I get so many questions about this. A lot of prospective international students out there, they want to know, how can they fund their education here in the US as international students? Now, one thing that you need to know is that as an international student, most schools out there will charge you out of state tuition fees. All right, so this basically means that you are charged more than the locals. Okay, let's say, for example, if a school is charging, let's say, for example, $5,000 for you to do, take as tuition fees for one semester, and that's for the locals, people who are like from that state, as an international student, will most likely be charged double that, and in this case, $10,000. Okay, so that's something that you need to be aware of as you start your journey of trying to come to study here in the US. Now, I see a lot of people also trying to compare, the cost of studying here and back in their countries, and especially if you come from a third world country. I mean, if you really want to come and study here, you're gonna find it's very, very expensive to study here compared to what you had to pay back in your country if you come from a third world country. Okay, and the reason being, the US has one of the best, education systems here. Okay, it's good. I mean, you come here, you're gonna see there's a huge difference between what you did in your undergraduate, maybe from your country, and what they offer here. So, and for that, of course, it comes with a cost, right? But I think, having been an international student myself, I think it's worth it to come here because there's so many opportunities that are here once you are done with your studies, right? So even if, let's say, for example, even if you're paying $10,000 a semester, once you are done with school, there's very high chances that you're going to get a very well-paying job, especially if you're a smart international student. So, you can be able to recoup that money very, very quickly. Right. So don't look at the cost of studying here and try to compare it with your country, especially if you come from a third world country, because you're going to get disappointed. Right. But anyways, even if it's very costly, there's different funding options for you. So you don't really have to worry. Because also with these funding options, actually, sometimes you don't even have to have a family that is well off. Okay. Because let's say, for example, on average, a school, for them to issue you with an I-20, if you're going to a good state university out there, very affordable, most likely it's gonna be around $25,000 per year cost of studying. That's tuition and living expenses. For them to issue you with the I-20, you have to show that you have $25,000 per year, and you're only required to show the first year of finances. Okay. So $25,000 may sound like a lot of money to a lot of people, especially if you come from a third world country. Not many people can afford that kind of money. And I think even here also in the US, not everybody is, has that kind of money to be able to, support their education. In fact, actually, most American students here, they take federal loans, to study. So because of that, don't be discouraged, because even though you come from a not well-off family, you can actually, there's different options in terms of funding that you can use. Now, funding options that you have, you can use your family. If you have the money, you can use your family to pay for your education. You have to show that. Remember, we said that, if you want an I-20, if you're requesting for an I-20, you have to present supporting documents. So if it's your family, then you present your family bank statements, for example. Now, one thing that I've always seen a lot of, especially those from Africa, I come from Africa, most of them, they just want to land here as a student. Then they think that they can be able to work, and be able to pay for school fees. That's a very, very wrong approach to coming and studying here in the US. If you really want, if you're a serious student who want to come and study here in the US, you need to have the funding. If you have no idea where you're going to get the funding, please don't even try to do your application. You're basically going to be wasting your time. Even if you get here, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because school here is very expensive. If you don't go to school, then you're going to drop out of status. And if you drop out of status, you're going to be here illegally. So there's so many consequences if you don't have funding. And I see this mistake with a lot of our people, especially those from Africa and from Kenya. I see a lot of those students. In fact, here in the US, about 30% of those people who are here in the US, they don't have the right immigration documents. Okay, listen and listen carefully. Those people here in the US, from back, especially from Africa, 30% of them, they don't have the right immigration documents. And most of those people, they came to the US as international students. Okay, and at some point, they drop out of school. Maybe they were not able to, pay for the education. And most of the time, what they normally do is most students out there, they go to the embassy, they present a bank statement, they claim, let's say, for example, someone is their uncle and somehow they're able to get the visa and they come here and they have no way of funding for their education. Then the moment you come here and you have to pay $25,000 per year and you have nothing, then you won't go to school. And the moment you don't go to school, then you're going to drop out of status. The moment you drop out of status, then basically you are here illegally. And if you are here illegally, then of course you can even be deported. And if you are here illegally, of course, you can't be able to transition. Even if you're smart, you can't get a good job out there in corporate America. You can't transition to a skilled worker. Okay, so that's why funding is the most, I always say this, in this whole process of coming to the US, honestly, if you don't, funding is the most important thing. If you don't have funding, you should not try to come here. If you are serious student, unless you just want to use the student visas to just come. But in this session and in this webinar, we are not addressing those who want just to use a student visa to come and do other things in the US. No, we are addressing serious students who want to come and study here in the US. So if you're a serious student who want to come and study here in the US, you have to show you have the funding. So don't go out there, get a bank statement from your rich uncle or your rich auntie or your rich grandpa and present to the school so that you can get the I-20 and then use that to go to the embassy to seek the student visa. And then you know very well that this person won't support you once you're here in the US. Okay, don't do that. All right. Now, the other option. Now, if you have family who is able to support you, let's say, for example, your dad, your mom, that's good. Maybe your brothers, your sisters, that's good also. You can present that. And also something that I'm going to say is that when you go to the embassy, a lot of people get denied student visas, mostly from Africa. In fact, actually, about 30%, about 70% of prospective African students who want to come and study in North America, that is in Canada and the US, they get denied student visas, 70%. Okay, in fact, actually, when you go to that embassy, most of the people that you're gonna be seeing are those who are gonna be denied visas. Because once you get there, you'll be seeing the ones who are in front of you. Most of them will be denied student visas. Why? Because they take the wrong approach. They go there with a bank statement for claiming, oh, my uncle is paying for my education. Oh, my auntie is paying for my education. Oh, my sister is paying for my education. I mean, and then the visa officer will ask you, why would your uncle want to spend $50,000 for you to come and study your master's here? I mean, in reality, it's not possible. For example, let's say even me, I have so much money and have some nephews and nieces back in Kenya. I don't think I can pay $50,000 for them to come and study here in the US, honestly. I mean, it's not possible. Rarely you'll find that. Okay, I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible. I mean, it's possible, of course, but most likely it's not. And also remember, also even the Americans, for them, they are not used to cousins and uncles paying for their education. So you have to look, they look at, they will look at you like the way they see things, I mean, from their own culture, right? No uncle will pay for $50,000 for you. And even in Africa also, I mean, $50,000, $20,000, even $10,000, even $5,000, who will pay for that for you? Okay, as an uncle, auntie, whatever, right? So it's very, very important that you get funding, right funding from the people who actually will fund you. Okay, maybe your parents. If you have, if you show that you have sources of funding from parents, then that's good. You'll go to the embassy and you'll get the visa. But if you go there and claim your uncle, auntie, whatever, you're not gonna get the visa, all right? So next, international student loans. Well, now, when it comes to loans, I mean, here in the US, local students usually get federal loans. Okay, now as an international student, you can't get federal loans because you are an international student. You are not a US citizen. Okay, but there's actually options out there for you as an international student who want to come and study here in the US, and especially if you are smart. Okay, underline smart. Okay, now there's lenders out there that offer unsecured international student loans. All right, and there are two of them out there. One of them is called Prodigy, Prodigy. There's also another lender called Empower Financing. Now, in terms of our programs, because like I said, we do consultation services for those who want to come and study here. We actually partner with Empower Financing. We offer unsecured international student loans. So you can even go to our website and you'll be able to see that about Empower Financing. So those are the two lenders that offer unsecured international student loans to study here in the US. Now for Prodigy Finance, they will require you to show that you have a very good credit score from back in your country. So if you're one of those people who maybe you defaulted some loan somewhere back in your country and you don't have a good credit score, most likely you'll never get funded by Prodigy. But the good thing is with Empower Financing, they actually offer unsecured international student loans. You don't have to show any credit report. Okay, so they'll just give you, all they want to see that you're a smart student, okay, and you're going to a very marketable program, and they'll fund you. Okay, all right. So, and that's why I said you have to be smart for you actually to get student loans, these unsecured student loans. Also, when it comes to being funded through unsecured international student loans, it's always good to have a very good GMAT or GRE score, because these lenders, they don't just dish out the money to just anybody out there just because they want a student loan. No, they give money to those students who have a high potential, basically meaning someone who has a high chance of getting a job. And what are indicators of someone who can actually get a job? That person must be smart. Okay, and for you to show that you're smart, then you have to show that you have a very good GMAT score, because they don't know. I mean, if you went to some school, like for example, like me in Kenya, Strathmore University, they don't know what Strathmore University is. If you went to some school in Ghana, for example, in Accra University or whatever it is, they don't know those schools. They don't know how good those schools are. But if you have like a GMAT score, which is good, they can be able to see, because GMAT is done by everybody across the world. It's a standardized exam. Okay, so that's why it's very, very important to have a very good GMAT score. You have to do this if you really want funding. Okay, also, these lenders, they don't just support any program out there. Okay, you have to do a program that is also marketable, especially if you are taking a loan from Prodigy. They'll always fund STEM programs. STEM means science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Those good programs usually attract very, very bright students. Okay, so there's high chances of those bright students also getting jobs. Okay, so that's how they do their underwriting. Okay, and also another thing about these student loans is that these lenders, they work with specific schools. Okay, they don't just work with any school out there, because here in the US, there's thousands and thousands of universities. You can come here even when you didn't score very highly back in your country. But they don't just work with any school out there. They work with really good state or private universities, and because they know that these universities attract really good students. Okay, all right, so that's something that you need to understand. All right, and these student loans you pay once you graduate from school. They actually give you a grace period of up to 6 months. Now with the Empower Financing, because they are a little bit lenient, when you're studying, you have to pay the interest, which is usually not a lot of money. Okay, so they are more lenient. You are more likely to get that loan, but you'll start repaying your interest when you're still in school. But the full amount you'll start repaying 6 months after you graduate from school. For Prodigy, you start repaying the amount 6 months after you graduate. There is no payment of interest when you're still in school. Okay, and all you need to do once you get accepted, I mean, once you get the loan approval, all you need to do is just submit that to the school that you applied to, seek the I-20, and then go to the embassy, present the same approval letter at the embassy. The embassy want to, and I see a lot of people also confusing, thinking that maybe if you have a loan, it's not a good thing when it comes to getting student visas. No, in fact, it's a very, very good thing. I would advise you, don't take a bank statement from an uncle and take a student loan approval letter. You are more likely to get that student visa. In fact, actually, most of our students who get these loans and they come through our programs, they usually don't have problems with student visas, okay? Now, the other funding option is something called Graduate Assistantship Awards, and this is for graduate students, master's students. Now, most of the schools out there, they have arrangements where they pay maybe part of your tuition fees, where they pay it, and then they require you to work within the department that offers you that award. Okay, and it's called Graduate Assistantship Award. Sometimes they may call it a Research Assistant Award, or Teaching Assistant Award. Okay, so basically they pay part of your school tuition and they require you to work within the department that gives you that award. And also when you work, they also pay you a stipend on a monthly basis to help with your living expenses, maybe your rent, your groceries and all that. Okay. So what I always advise prospective international students is that when you are doing your applications, once you submit your applications and once you've been accepted, ask the school whether they offer graduate assistantship awards. Most of them, they do that, and apply. And don't just apply to one, apply to as many as possible. I think also this is a very broad, topic that maybe we can have another session where we can talk more into details of how to go about this. Okay. On the other hand, also we have tuition waivers. A lot of schools out there, they waive part of the tuition fees. Even for example, some of the schools that we work with, some students, they go there, they get some tuition fees waived. So also ask about these tuition waivers when you are engaging the school. Okay, once you get accepted. Okay. Also, there's scholarships that you can find. In fact, actually, there's scholarships that are offered everywhere across the world, but mostly something that you need to understand is, because I get a lot of people asking about scholarship. Everybody wants to come here and spend nothing. Okay, of course, because you don't want to spend money. If you have an option of spending zero, that's better, right? But you have to understand that scholarships are usually merit-based. Basically meaning you have to show that you're brilliant, you're smart. They're not just dished out to just anybody out there just because they want them. Okay, so if you're looking for scholarships, then just make sure that you're smart. Just follow the instructions. There's a lot of scholarships out there. In fact, actually, if you go to our website, www.appstechamerica.com, we have a database of scholarships worth millions of dollars. Okay, everywhere offered, everywhere across the world, not just the US. Okay, so you can just go there and check them out. Okay. All right, but remember, it takes a lot of work for you to get a scholarship. So don't just think that you're gonna just submit an application and just get it. No, there's a lot of other things that you have to do, maybe write essays and stuff like that. So many things. Okay, but anyways, those are the different funding options that you have as a prospective international student who want to come and study master's programs here in the US. All right. You're watching Success with Bob Mwiti Show, presented to you by Appstec America. Appstec America is a consulting company that helps immigrants find amazing higher education and job opportunities in the tech industry in the United States. You can find our programs by going to www.appstecamerica.com. Appstec America, we wake you up to the unlimited potential within you. So what you're gonna do is I'm gonna open this session now for Q&A. Well, I'll try to read some of the questions here and see whether I can be able to answer all of them. Now, there is someone by the name Morris. He says that he's been in contact with Bob before. I did send my school credentials, which he approved, and gave a green light to apply to join Upstack. So yes, I'm qualified. I want to do a master's in data science. However, I need to know the loan repayment procedures. Well, now, I don't know. I don't want to dwell too much on our programs here because that's really not what brought us here. But through the Kenya Airlift program, we have the handbook that specifically says the interest rate that is offered through the program, through our circle. You can check that out. I think it's 1% per month. And you repay once you graduate from school, and that loan is for relocation expenses. In terms of loans from the lenders, let's say, for example, if you take Prodigy loan, you can always go to Prodigy website and check their loan repayment interest rate. It's usually between around 9% and above. And same thing with the Empower. Also, you can be able to know the interest rate for that. Now, repayment period, I think it's 10 years, I believe. I'm not very sure. I think 10 or 12. It all depends. Anyways, just go to the website again, Prodigy or Empower Financing, and you'll be able to see all that information. Securities, again, these loans, they are unsecured international student loans. So basically the security is you. You must be smart. That's why I said it's not just for anybody out there. You have to have a very good GMAT score or GRE score. You have to show you're a smart person. And if you're coming to do a very marketable program, let's say, for example, you're saying you're coming to do data science, that's the security for you. You're coming to a very good program. So they know that you have a very high chance of getting a job. Those are the kind of students that they want to lend to. They don't just lend to just anybody out there. So there's no other security that is needed. There's someone here who is anonymous, says that, could you talk a little bit about bachelor's, master's programs, for example, that in Colombia, where you can do an additional year taking a master's level and get a master's degree? Yes, I know there's those options where you have like dual programs, where you can do your bachelor's and at the same time also you can start doing your master's studies. What you need to do is just get in touch with the universities that offer those programs that you're interested in, that are dual programs, and you should be able to get to know more about that information. Okay. All right, but yes, it's possible. Some schools, I don't think it's every school out there that offers those kind of options, but I know there's that, where you can be able to do your bachelor's and at the same time also you undertake your master's. Okay, so those are the two questions that I can see. There's another one here from Ian. He says, for prospective STEM MBA students without previous STEM careers, is career change possible? Yes, well, most MBAs out there, they are not really STEM, but there are some schools out there, they classify them as STEM. So you just need to ask whether your program is a STEM program. Also depends with which concentration you are taking, because MBA is very generic, right? So you can take an MBA, for example, in data analytics. If the school has classified that as a STEM program, then that's good for you, right? You can also take an MBA program in, let's say, for example, information technology as a concentration. That could be a STEM program, right? But generally, MBA, just a generic MBA, that won't be a STEM program. It will just be a regular master's program. And that will only get you just 1 year of post-graduation work authorization, OPT, that we talked about. Okay. Now, I believe the students want to know whether you can do a career change. Yes, like for example, you see, I always give my own example, right? I came to the US as a master's student, as an MBA student. Me, I didn't have any IT undergraduate. I didn't have any IT background. No. Okay. But what I did was, because I realized, remember I told you guys, I was finding it a little bit hard, not a little bit actually, very hard to get jobs. So I had to extend school by 1 semester. So what I did was I got trained in the IT, on IT job skills as an Oracle systems analyst. Okay. And that's how I was able to now to get a job, because I was trained on job skills. There's a lot of companies out there. We do such training programs. That's what Wilfred talked about. We have training programs on robotics. For example, you can train as a robotics business analyst. You can train as a robotics developer. You can train as a data scientist on artificial intelligence and machine learning. You can also train as an Oracle systems analyst. These training programs, even though they are IT programs, even though the IT skills that you are being trained on, you can actually do them if you come from a background that is not necessarily IT. And that's really what I did, right? Let's say, for example, if you come for an MBA, I did an MBA and I was able to train on IT job skills and I was able to get a job because IT and business is quite related. You understand? And by the way, I see a lot of people out there getting scared of IT, thinking that, if you don't have any IT background, then it's not easy for you to get to transition. No, because there's me when I used to work as an IT consultant, I never used to do any coding. I can't write even one single line of code. Okay, right? Because I used to implement from the front end. There's a lot of jobs out there. In fact, actually, so many of them where you work from the front end. Okay, so you don't need to have any tech background for you to get into the tech space. Okay, all right. So you just need to know exactly what you want to study, what you would also want to do as a career, what are the training programs out there for you that can enable you now, get those skills that are needed in the job market. And we said we can talk about this in another session because I think time is up for us. So let me take another question. In this era of working remotely, is it possible to find a company to sponsor me for H1B working remotely from Kenya? No, it's not possible. You have to be physically here. Let's say, for example, you get sponsorship to work on H1B visa through Upstack America. The government, the US government, requires us to bring you here in Tampa, not even anywhere in the US. You have to be physical. You can work remotely, but you have to be physically located in Tampa. You don't have to go to the office for Upstack, but you can be in your house, but in Tampa, because also they do checks. Okay, they do random checks sometimes to check whether, because some of these programs, for example, H1Bs, they can, they are very vulnerable to abuse, right? Companies can abuse them and file for people who are, non-existent, right? So they don't want to do that. So you have to be physically here, even though you're working remotely, even though you're not going physically to the office. So I've answered your question, hopefully. Does Upstack support admissions support to universities, not on your list? Well, we normally work with the schools that are in our list. We keep on expanding the list. And the reason is because these are schools that we work with, some of the schools that we have official partnership with. We know that, for example, let's say where Wilfred is studying, we know that if you go there through our program, you have a very high chance of getting, graduate assistantship award because you're going to be considered because you come through our program. So that's how we work. But again, also the other thing, another factor that we have to consider is also the lenders, because part of what we do in our programs is that we hook you up with the lenders. Remember, I said we have, unsecured international student loans that we can offer you through our official lending partners. For example, Empower is our official lending partner. Prodigy is also our preferred partner, but they are not yet our official lending partner. So not every school is supported by these lenders. So, it has to be a school that is supported by them. So if it's a school that is supported by them and you need a loan, then at the end of the day, we can be able to help you out. Again, through our programs, we don't just take anybody just because we want to come to the US. We have to make sure that you have the funding, because we realize a lot of people out there, they go looking for bank statements from wherever they can get them, go to the embassy, present them, then come here and then struggle. We don't want that to happen. In case actually our program is not just a matter of you coming here and studying, also helping you get jobs once you graduate from school. That's why you have those training programs on the side. We support you once you graduate from school. We hook you up with employers who are looking for people with the skills that you have. All right. Someone here is asking, hi, hello. You said that working in corporate America requires unique and specific skills. Kind to share any? Well, I like talking about mostly IT because that's really what we focus on mostly. Okay, I might be biased into IT because also I don't want to talk about something that I'm not very sure of. Now, for example, in IT, there's a huge demand. Also, I know in healthcare, there's a huge demand of people who have those kind of skills. Mostly, like for example, in the IT sector, if you're working in corporate America, most of the people that you'll find working there as consultants, mostly it's Asians, specifically Indians. Okay, and they are working there because most Americans don't have those kind of skills. Okay, IT consulting skills. We're not talking about, for example, a skill where maybe you have a computer broken and you are the one who's fixing a computer. No, that's a very basic skill. That one you probably won't have anybody to sponsor you. See, at the end of the day, when a company is sponsoring you, they need someone who can solve complex problems for companies. And that's even what the US government wants. They don't just want to dish out H-1Bs and employment-based green cards to anybody out there just because you want them. No. You have to be able to be someone who can solve complex problems for companies. And most of these complex problems, they cannot be solved by Americans. Okay, not many Americans can solve them, right? So they need us. They need those brilliant minds from everywhere across the world to come and help them out, solve those problems. I say that, most of the innovations here, they are done by international students by people who came as international students. Okay, if you can be able to show that, then you're going to be able to get sponsored and you're going to be able to live and work here long term once you graduate from school. Okay. And there's someone else here. What courses you think are relevant across time and what courses are more ephemeral? What 3 courses would you take if you had to start again now? And what 3 courses would you have avoided in retrospect? Now, honestly, first of all, to me, IT was never my cup of tea. Okay, I was more inclined into doing, being an accountant, and things like those. So, and I had no idea what IT was all about. I knew IT about computers and stuff like that, but I had no idea about consulting life. Okay, so if I was to start this all over again and I was to find myself in your situation where you want to come and study here in the US, and I had the kind of undergraduate I did, which was a Bachelor of Commerce in Accounting and Finance, I would take a Master of Science in Business Analytics because, one, I really don't love coding. Okay, so Master of Science in Business Analytics, probably it's not very techy coding heavy. I think the kind of coding language that you have to do is Python. I know Python, it's not very hard in terms of learning how to code. I think it's one of the easiest coding language. So I think I'll do business analytics master's program. And I would basically, in terms of 3 courses, probably maybe business analytics, maybe I would take maybe something like, I still have to take a STEM program, no matter what. Maybe I would do like operations management, still also a STEM program. Maybe I do even project management. I'll still try to find something that doesn't involve any coding at all, because that's not my thing. Okay. So of course I would avoid very heavy coding stuff, like for example, computer science, software engineering, and all that, because I don't like that stuff. Okay, but that's not to mean that those are not good courses. Those are very, 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 very marketable courses. It all depends also with your level, right? You know yourself, right? Do you like these things? Can you do them also, right? Because STEM is not for anybody out there, right? Right. So yeah, so that's what it is. And another question for prospective students in non-profit sector in finance roles and not in IT, does Upstack America support the admission process? Well, as long as you come through as long as you're interested in studying anything related to business or IT, you can come to us and decide to do an MBA in finance, or do MSc in finance, or do Master of Accountancy. Yeah, so we support those programs. Remember, our programs, they are more tailored towards helping you get a footing in the corporate world here in the US. Not just come to school, okay? Come to school, finish your master's, get done with that, then get the skills that are needed in the job market, then get into the corporate America. So we can only do that if we bring students who are in the same line as what we do as a company here in the US, which is basically IT consulting. And for you to do IT consulting, you can do IT consulting even without finance, accounting background, just general business background, mathematics, all those, anything related to that, you can always do IT programs, right? Because remember also I said, you can be in the IT industry working as a consultant. You don't have to code anything. You can work there as a business analyst. You can work there as a systems analyst. You can work in fintech, you know, all that. All right. So it's possible to get into IT without necessarily being a programmer. Because when you talk about IT, most people think IT, it's all that about programming and all. I think the last question here is, I think the last question here that I got is, do you help students apply to Colombia? Well, currently we are not working with Colombia as our official partners, but who knows, maybe very soon. But if you come through our programs and let's say, for example, we realize that Colombia, they maybe work with some of the lenders that you work with, yeah, we can help you get into Colombia. Okay. You've been watching Success with Bob Mwiti Show, brought to you by Upstack America. Come back next time to hear more steps and missteps that I took on the path to becoming a successful immigrant in USA. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.